I wanted to look at the question that Yitzchak left us off with last time, which was how do we relate to the fact that these men are were taken and killed? Yitzchak, is there anything you want to add to the question? Or is that essentially the question of how do we relate to these two things that are apparently contradictory feelings? So there is a couple of things that we need to know by way of introduction for this. One is that we are required to celebrate the fact that we're alive. That is the interesting. I'm still seeing Noam as the speaker, and I don't know how to change the speaker. Noam, if you know how, that's great. So the first thing that we need to know is how to celebrate being alive, and that is an important foundation in the Dayecha She'ato Chai. So one of the things that in the modern world is not so well known how to do is how to celebrate being alive. That is a challenge, and we need to know how to deal with that challenge of celebrating being alive. So that is one part of the story. That is a component. We all have to learn how to do that. The next part of the story, let me just clear my head here for a second, is that we're not in the business of deciding if Hashem is compassionate or strict, if he is Avinu or Malkeinu. We need to know that an entire religion was founded based on their inability to deal with those two aspects of Hashgacha, of Hashem's Hashgacha in the world. They ended up splitting the Melech from the Av. They did it with a father and a son, and they destroyed the entire concept of Achdus HaBorei. And so we affirm multiple times in a day that Hashem is Elokeinu and Hashem is Echad. That both manifestations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are both absolutely one. There's no split, there's no division, and there's certainly no need to split them off into a father and a son or any other split. And in the end, when Hashem's majesty will be manifest in the world, so we know that Bayom Hahu, Yeh Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad, that the unity of Hashem will be clear to everyone. So that is a foundation. It's a fundamental component of our Avodas Hashem, is to recognize that there is no split. So we're not looking to decide if Hashem is a good guy, is a bad guy, is compassionate, is strict. We recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Echad. And so we are now looking at two aspects of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One is the Midas Hadin that you pick up when you're speaking about those two who were shot, and the Midas Harachamim, or the Ha'aras Panim, that is associated with the fact that Savta and Aunt Marlet were saved, were spared, and that we are here in the world by extension. And whenever you get a tendency to split them, it's because people are looking to exempt themselves. And here's the next and most important part of the story. People look to decide if Hashem is this way or that way. how that Hashem is this way or that way, that is an attempt to exempt themselves. They exempt themselves by saying that since Hashem is a certain, he's not the good guy that I want him to be, so I'm no longer obligated to serve him. Now, this was brought out, if you want just a little bit of a story, the Chazal talk about the story of Yokum. Yokum was the nephew of Rabbi Yossi ben Yoezer. He was a privileged Roman citizen, rode on a fancy horse, and it was Shabbos when his uncle, the famous Yossi ben Yoezer, was being taken out to be crucified. And he rode out on his fine horse next to his uncle to taunt him. And he said, "Look at the fine horse that my master has me riding, and look at the horse, so to speak, that your master has given you to ride," as he's being taken out to be crucified. And Yossi ben Yoezer responds, "If those who anger him get such honor, then all the more so, kal v'chomer, will those who observe his will, that they will be honored." And Yokum said, "Has there been anyone who observed Hashem's will more than you? So aren't you then to be honored?" And Yossi ben Yoezer answered, "If those who uphold his will are subject to punishment, how much more so will those who anger him?" Two kal v'chomers. And Chazal go on to say that the words of his uncle entered like a snake bite, and Yokum proceeded to invoke all four of the death penalties on himself. And as he was dozing, Yossi ben Yoezer saw a vision of his nephew's deathbed, and he said, in a brief moment, Yokum preceded me to Gan Eden. So we have to ask, what moved Yokum? And the answer lies in the fact that Yokum had exempted himself from service to Hashem because he saw, maybe tzaddikim, maybe his own uncle, he saw that his uncle had some difficulties in life. Well, that can't be. If Hashem doesn't look after those who serve him, then I don't have to serve Hashem. So he exempted himself with this idea. And he came out to taunt Yossi ben Yoezer with this idea. Here I am flaunting, I am ignoring everything that Hashem said. Today is Shabbos, I'm on a horse, I'm a proud Roman. And Yossi ben Yoezer said what appears to be a very strange set of kal v'chomers. He said, well, if you're getting great honor, kal v'chomer, the people who serve him are going to get great honor. Where is that going to be? Obviously, in the world to come. Yossi ben Yoezer says, but are we still talking about this world? If we're still talking about this world, then where's all the honor? After all, nobody serves Hashem like you do. To which Yossi ben Yoezer responded, well, if Hashem is strict with those who serve him and cleanse out even the slightest missteps that they do and punishes them for those in this world, again, to be able to free them from any such punishment in the world to come, then certainly those who don't do his will better worry. Now, what about that struck Yokum? And I believe that if you think about it, what struck Yokum is that the events of his life are now viewed as tools and vehicles for him to grow. Up until now, Yokum viewed what he saw, the story of a suffering righteous person, he saw it as a reason to exempt himself. But that's a story that you only need to see once. You don't need to see that story multiple times. And so it's a lifetime built on one story. It's a lifetime built on one idea. It's not an idea that you can build on. Anybody who has an idea about somebody suffering and therefore he's exempt, it doesn't, how are you supposed to build on that? If you ask somebody who feels that they're exempt from serving Hashem because Hashem caused bad things to happen to good people, if you ask them, okay, so then what's the meaning of your life? Well, I want to do good and I want to have, where'd you get that from? It must mean that you have some other foundational meaning. Said, yeah, well, I believe in goodness, and I believe in justice, and I believe in. So where did you get those from? Everybody has to have some foundational meaning, some foundational truth that they're able to build on. What Yossi ben Yoezer was telling Yaakov is that every day of your life, Hashem was giving you material for you to grow. He was showing you when people have hardships, whoa, that's a message for me to recognize that we need, even righteous people need cleansing in order to go into the next world. Otherwise, there wouldn't be hardships. And when somebody has good fortune, it's an opportunity for me to recognize that Hashem grants tremendous good fortune to those who serve him, as by way of a kal v'chomer, that even people who do not serve him get honor, all the more so for people who serve him. In other words, he turned his life from a one-incident life to a life that was filled with meaning and messages throughout his life. And Yaakov just couldn't absorb all of that, and he lost it. But the idea that when we're looking at these stories and we say, well, what about the ones who were killed? We are celebrating that we survived. What about the ones who were killed? You say, okay, well, the ones who survived are testimony to Hashem's enormous compassion for us as individuals, for the Jewish people at large. And the ones who perished are indications of the fact that he means business and that this is not just fun and games. So when you're saying, what am I meant to do with the fact that these two women, Savta and this other woman, were spared, and by extension, we're all here. And how are we meant to relate to the fact that these other two men were taken and shot? And the answer is, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to strengthen your relationship to the Midas Hadin? Are you looking to strengthen your relationship to the Midas Harachamim? You choose. Whichever one you need more at that point in your life, by all means, that's what you should tap into. So our mission is to use the events in our lives and in our history to affirm our recognition of and connection to both aspects of Hashem's hashgacha in the world. And as a person matures spiritually, his ability to select feelings should also increase, which means he should recognize that now I need more of a boost, so to speak, to get into lane with a relationship with Hashem as Avinu. Well, then he should pull out his little booklet of survival stories of the times that he survived, that his ancestors survived, etc. Should use those to bolster his sense of Avinu. What should he do if he's feeling like he's on top of the world and he doesn't need to defer to Hashem's will? Well, then he needs to pull out a different pamphlet. And both of those pamphlets are absolutely true. But we're not meant to assess whether Hashem is this or Hashem is that. Hashem is perfectly appropriate. That's the key of Hashem. is that he's absolutely and perfectly appropriate. We're meant to become appropriate, but Hashem is absolutely appropriate. What we're doing is we're tapping into the manifestations of Hashem in the world, and as we tap into those, we use them. They become a mashal, if you will. They become a mashal, which we're then meant to translate into the nimshal of our lives. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask questions, comments, reactions, or alternatives. Yitzchak, did that address the question as you were asking it? I don't know if Yitzchak is still there. Anybody still there? Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, there's one response. Good. In that case, I am going to wish you, we can't unmute ourselves. Oh, well, how do you like that? I thought it said that it can. Okay, let me allow participants to unmute themselves. Yes.
Abba had to control the muting.
Now you got it.
There we go. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that we covered that, because I'd like to go over to next week. I'd like to go over to Yosef's question about why we need miracles. I just want to make sure that this one has been we've sort of given some food for thought to about the ones who died and the ones who lived.
I'm actually going to listen to the recording again. I want to process. I want to think about it more.
Good. Very good. Very good. So now I will
Thank
wish
you.
everybody, I will thank you for joining, and I will wish you a good week, Be'ezer Hashem. Kol Tuv. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Bye-bye.